Edinburgh, Scotland's capital. It has a parliament, it has a palace, which like the city will be lovely when it's finished. It has a castle, and a real castle. It has a beach, it has a mountain, Arthur's Seat. In the 20 occasions that I've come to this city, every time I make it a point not to climb Arthur's Seat. But this year was no different. And if you do make it to the top, it offers a fantastic view of the most expensive short-term accommodation in the UK. But most of all, Edinburgh is a flyering festival. See, an obvious Edinburgh problem, a wet seat after a rain shower. How can you solve it? Quite easy. Take some flyers. Problem sorted. The Fringe is at the end of the comedy year, where comics come to get examined and graded out of 5 stars. Anything could be a show in Edinburgh, and anyone can be and will be judged.
You could count the punters on one hand, but last week they were completely rammed. They were filled up to the gunnels, they were queuing down the street. They said, you should have been here last week. I swear, you should have been here last week. Oh yeah, you should have been here last week.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of You Should Have Been Here Last Week, the podcast hosted by myself and fellow comedian Paul Ricketts.
Mustn't grumble.
You Should Have Been Here Last Week is the podcast that draws back the veil, separating the earthly general public and the other world of the comedy cosmos, revealing the swirling ethereal chaos of the comedic universe, featuring the disembodied voices, the provocative choices, the bad choices indeed, that make up this biz that we call comedy. And today's very special guest is promoter, entrepreneur and venue operator behind the behemoth that is the Laughing Horse comedy empire, the one and only Mr. Alex Petty. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hello there, Stephen Paul.
Yes, I will sort of tell the listeners and viewers that this is part 2 of the interview. We tried this time last year, and it was very hot then, and my laptop responded to the heat by blowing up and burning itself to death. So this is the second attempt, a lot like Edinburgh. A yearly event. It's exactly the same as last year, but slightly different. So my first question is about the Laughing Horse. I mean, there's many sort of animals involved in comedy clubs and promoters. There's hyenas, there's jackals, there's cows. How did you pick the horse? Did the horse pick you?
In many ways, the horse picked me. It came from the bar that we originally started running comedy gigs in, which was the Black Horse. So it was a terrible pun, Laughing Horse, make you laugh until you're hoarse, by our original compere that started it off. Then it stuck from there a gazillion years later.
Yeah. Where was the Black Horse? Whereabouts was it?
It's in Richmond in southwest London.
Ah, right. I mean, horses are not generally known for their sense of humour, are they?
Well, they walk into bars a lot.
Yeah,
they're always walking into bars. That's very true, actually. Yeah.
Did you ever do stand-up?
Never. I've never felt the urge to do it. I got into doing this with a friend that wanted to start doing stand-up, a guy called Rob Lee, who ended up being the compere of our first gig. He always wanted to perform and get up on stage. I hung around with him at comedy clubs in the area. Big Fish in Richmond was our sort of regular comedy night. And he decided he wanted to start doing open spots, as many do. And then that sort of led on several months later to, hey, let's run a comedy club. That'll be easy. And the rest is history from there.
So you opened up the first Laughing Horse at the Black Horse, and then So how long did it take you to expand further?
Probably over about sort of 6 months to a year. The guys that we were running with it, there was 4 of us, myself, Rob, that I mentioned, guy Kevin McCarran and Fenton McCoot, who'd run some other comedy clubs previously. And then one of the guys found another venue up in King's Cross about 6 months later, and we thought we'd expand it and do a Friday night show there. And then it just gradually crept up from there. And started, I think, as we all feel, stand-up comedy taking over our lives when we get into it.
Mm. Obviously, at one point, you were considering taking over London. And what made you not to do this in the end?
We used to run a lot of gigs. We had loads of gigs across Soho, Camden, all sorts of places. And there was a lot of other people like us running similar gigs that were sort of those sort of open mics and progressing acts. So people coming down to do a headline spot for some money or a door split. And you just started to come up into competition against all the bringer shows and the bring a mate and pay to perform and all those. And that just sucked up all the audience and the acts of mates bringing mates along to watch them perform, that it just got more and more difficult to run those nights across London on the sort of the traditional method of charge some tickets and have a nice sort of mixed bill of comedians.
So, I mean, what do you think of those? I mean, they're still going now. They're still a big part of the open mic circuit.
Yeah, we seem to be stuck with them. That's what I think. I don't think they've done anything to help improve comedy. And it's developed quite a chasm now between there's a very definite line between open micers starting out on that circuit and then professional clubs. There doesn't seem to be as much, if any at all, in London, that sort of middle ground of clubs that can progress acts through the ranks. It's a lot more difficult, I think, for acts starting now to get into comedy than it was 20 years ago. I think all of us were part of a little bit of a golden era of comedy as it was growing and developing before those bringer nights and so on and so forth came along.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, in a strange sort of way, it's become a circuit on its own that people stay within.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it's they stay within it. It's very difficult to break out of it because there isn't those gigs where you can be seen by the promoter who's running a slightly bigger gig, the company that's got a few gigs, or the next person up the rung to sort of progress the career anymore.
So the Bringer Nights sort of spurred you on to take your next step.
Yes, in sort of in tune with that, we got into visiting the Edinburgh Fringe. And as I think anyone who visits the first time was completely overwhelmed by the size of it and everything that was going on, and that really started to spur the desire to run some shows at festivals, and that's pretty much how sort of Free Festival and what we do in Edinburgh plus the festivals we do at other places around the world and around the UK started from there, and that's what's become the main bit of Laughing Horse these days.
So before we go any further into your development, I have to mention the three initials, PBH, Peter Buckley Hill, because you originally started with him, and without getting into any contentious areas, and which I think is almost impossible, but without involving litigation from anybody. So, yeah, explain how that started.
We did well. First couple of years, myself and Kevin, we were up in Edinburgh. I think we pretty much went through what a lot of other people did, looking at venues to hire to do the Fringe the traditional way, and it was just a case of it's so expensive. We couldn't sort of justify spending the budget on it, and through that we saw Peter Buckley Hill and Some Comedians, the show that he was running at the time, and it was a great show. There were decent acts on it, and it spurred the idea that would this sort of free entry thing work. It was a packed out venue where a lot of the paid shows were a little bit empty. So then the opportunity came up to work with him and a couple of other acts putting on a venue together. That was back in 2004. So we just gave the idea a go. Let's give this idea of doing a comedy selection type show. See if people are come to it. We're in the Union of Communication Workers Social Club, which later became known as Lindsay's. Back in the film of time, a little bit off of Leith Walk and out of town. And we were amazed by the number of people that actually came in to see the shows at this venue that was very, very much off the radar. And then it just grew from there. We worked together for 3 years and got some extra venues. And I think it's fair to say we both decided it was very difficult working with each other. I think fundamentally it's the same principle. Of wanting to put on shows that are good for audiences and good for acts and don't rip anyone off, but just two slightly different methods of getting there. So we decided to break away and do our own thing from I think it was either 2006 or 2007, that sort of era. Went off with the hopes that we do our thing and they do theirs. The rest is definitely history from there on how that worked out. But certainly I think both sides have grown from strength to strength. And there shouldn't be any of the animosity or silliness that goes on, because both of us and several other people are now running better value and free and pay what you can. That's certainly helped benefit the Edinburgh Fringe overall over the last couple of decades.
So you don't see any sense of competition between you and any of the other free or pay what you want?
I personally don't know. I think it's all something that's needed. There's a huge audience out there. There's the more shows, the more venues that are out there offering a better deal for performers, and also a better deal for audiences, the better. Back in the day, you were paying £14-15 a ticket for a show, and that was it. That was your only option as an audience member, and paying several £1,000s in guarantees to hire a venue was the only option as a performer. That's changed dramatically the last 20 years, and the more different options performers have, the better.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair to say that there's still quite challenging conditions at the end. I mean, especially over the last few years. I mean, post-COVID, the talk of it being in crisis. I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, one of the big things that people are absolutely gobsmacked over is the price of accommodation.
That has become the absolute killer. My budget, I used to be able to tell performers, and this is only going back 7 or 8 years, that if you're going to come up and do a fringe show, and do it at Free Festival, you could pretty much run a budget of about £1,100 to put it on. That's between the fringe venue registration, the contribution paid to us, your posters and your flyers, and you're getting the train up to Edinburgh. And over 25 nights of doing a show, that's not an inconceivable amount of money to make back and cover your costs. And also you've got a pretty good chance of making money on that. Nowadays, you start with your base accommodation from around about £1,500, and that's getting a reasonable deal. You can sort of £1,200, £1,300 if you're out in Musselburgh, £1,500 anywhere up to £2,000+ per person to stay in a room somewhere, and that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's blown the budget of everybody. Where all the other costs have stayed pretty much the same around it.
Yeah, I mean, even the campsites. I was looking last year. They've suddenly the price of camping has just shot up as well. So that option's really expensive as well, and the student accommodation's gone up as well.
Yeah, I stay in student accommodation block, and I pay for that for myself and a couple of people that work with me, plus some performers. Last year we were just over £1,400 a head. This year it's nearer £1,800. That's a ridiculous increase.
Especially because there's more of it, and yet somehow it's, despite the bigger supply, higher price.
Yeah, there just seems to be an endless demand and an endless amount of student blocks being put up in Edinburgh at the moment. Is that the reason? A lot of this is down to Edinburgh Council's and the Scottish Government's change of laws for short-term lets and accommodation, which the principle behind that was to try and release housing stock back to the people of Edinburgh, which is absolutely fair. There's far too many Airbnbs stopping people getting accommodation. However, it's not worked for the people of Edinburgh. All the people who own these second apartments have just sold them on to millionaires who've got even richer out of it. It's not solved the housing crisis of Edinburgh in any way, shape or form, and all it's done is rack up the accommodation costs of everyone visiting Edinburgh at the same time. It just seems to be a lose-lose situation, apart from Edinburgh Council, who can make some money out of licences now.
I mean, I hesitate to ask this, but it's almost like a perfect storm. Because on top of that, you've got the cost of accommodation, but you've also got a kind of. Has there been a falling off of audiences in the last 3 or 4 years post COVID? Because that's what we've been hearing. There's not as many people going.
We had a slight dip a couple of years ago, but it's built back up again. I think the free and the pay what you can, pay what you want methods certainly bat above their average for getting people in. It's seen as a more viable option for people to get out and see more shows when people can go in and throw some money in the bucket at the end of the show, or get a cheap ticket in advance for a couple of pounds to make sure you're seeing a show rather than paying 15, 20, 25 pounds to go and see an hour show somewhere else. We kept going through COVID. We did the online year of COVID. 2021 was an amazing year at the Fringe when it was so last minute. But there were so few shows and too many people. The following year, when everyone came back to what was nearly a full Fringe, that felt like a very difficult year for audiences because people were worried about getting back. So it dipped 22, started to come back 23, but it's felt pre-COVID numbers for us last year, and certainly looking at what advance sales there are for the pay what you can tickets, fingers crossed it's looking about the same this year.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, so you think that's I mean, I know you would say this, but that's a viable way for the Fringe to survive. I mean, because it sounds from what you're saying that tickets are so expensive in places like the Pleasance and the big ticket venues, but you're able to sort of not subvert that, but you're able to offer a different offer, aren't you? To punters.
Yeah, it's a different model. It's a different offer. We as a business, and I think a lot of the other smaller venues that are offering some of the alternative options have got a different model for the big four venues. And it's the big four venues that rely on performers paying high rentals to go into the venues, and audiences paying high tickets that are going to be the ones that suffer. That I genuinely don't think that is sustainable. Whereas the alternative methods where people have had to think outside the box and try something different to get shows on is a lot more sustainable. That said, you do start to feel guilty encouraging performers to come to Edinburgh when the baseline is going to be there's your accommodation. That's the best part of £2,000 before you've even got into a venue, put a poster up, or sold a single ticket.
So with the cost, does that change who can actually come to Edinburgh?
I think it does. It's really starting to cut. The biggest change I've seen, and I've had quite a few conversations about this the last 6 months, go back 10 years. And I think we'll all remember those sort of new act shows that came up to Edinburgh where there was sort of 3, 4, 5 people in a show, which were essentially could have all been called 4 comics giving it a go for the first time. But they're enthusiastic. They were doing the right amount of set that they could do at that point in their career, be it 10 minutes or 15 minutes. They are able to get up and experience Edinburgh, get the experience of putting a show on, would get a good audience in because they can all flyer and get people in together. That sort of show has really vanished now, because how can 5, 4 acts sharing a room in a 50, 60, 80 capacity venue even hope to cover the costs when they're all paying accommodation upwards of £1,500, £2,000? It's really got to the stage where it's acts later in their career that are coming up, and ones that have really got to take the jump and go, I've got this product, this show I've got to sell. And it's got to be people that have either saved up the money over a number of years to do it, or have got a little bit of money behind them. It's getting much more difficult for the people that don't have money. We work with Sian Davis on what she does for the working class comedians and things like that. It's very difficult if you've not got the money to do it now, with the costs that are involved with Edinburgh, whatever anyone does at a venue to try and help things.
Well, I'm going to put the big four counter argument. Because even if there isn't any competition between the Free Fringe, all the different variants of it, the big four will, and I've had this discussion with people who are involved in the big four, saying that the Free Fringe is the problem, and that it's made the whole thing too big, and it would be better and improve quality. That's the argument they always use. improve quality if it was reduced in size by having less free stuff.
Yeah, I will say a few things to that. I'll say the free fringe is a problem for the big four venues. They don't know how to react to all these other shows being out there, and by free fringe, whether it's the pay what you can, all those, they don't know how to react to that, because the only way they solve problems is by, we will spend more on marketing, we will try and take more money away, we will charge more money, because the only way you can get punters in the door with their method is to spend more money, and it's money that's drying up at the moment. In terms of quality, I'd counter that argument with it's the Edinburgh Fringe. It's a fringe festival, which is an open access arts festival. Where do you introduce quality control for an open access festival? Because at some point you're starting to exclude performers completely from it. Like 1947, the original one excluded lots of performers. They just turned up and did something else anyway.
Yeah,
it's an open access festival, and all venues have quality control of some level. Everything gets programmed, and all venues have got great shows. All venues have got 1-star shows, and everything in between. It's about performers being able to find a space and put on their shows, not about somebody dictating what's the best quality or not. Whether that's someone sat in their gilded towers somewhere with all the big bucks hiring in the big performers, or it's somebody who's running shows out the back of a pub somewhere.
So, yeah, I mean, I accept that answer, but
Fight.
This is what the Fringe is about. It's the universities versus individual pubs and people who own venues also getting involved. The universities pretty much are the basis of the big four.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the whole Edinburgh Fringe relies and is synchronized with the university. There's so many things that could probably benefit the fringe if it wasn't tied so much to the universities and the university's year. There's been an argument, for example, for several years that the fringe should align itself to the Scottish school holidays rather than the English ones.
Yeah.
But that is always pushed back on by the big four, and I think that's essentially being tied into the university calendar, so that can't change. So, people, for example, if you're running children's shows as part of the fringe, generally the last half of the fringe is very tricky to get more people in. Fringe was started a week and a half earlier and aligned with the dates of the Scottish school terms. That would be a lot better for performers and for venues to get more bums on seats. And even though adult shows aren't directly part of, obviously, school people, kids being off school, the parents and the adults involved, that's when they take their time off and work around, so they've got a little bit more time in the evening to go out and see things.
I mean, it's interesting you to say that about the Scottish thing, because one of the knock-on effects, of course, of the higher cost of accommodation is that now there seems to me to be a much larger representation of Scottish acts than there used to be. So more Scottish acts are doing it, which I mean, I personally think that's a good thing. But because they, obviously they live there, or they don't have to travel as far, and that kind of changed the complexion of it a little bit as well, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely agree. And it's only a good thing there's more Scottish acts. I've always remembered the argument from years ago there not being a big representation of Scottish, and I think with the reduction of other people travelling in, a more developed Scottish comedy circuit over the last sort of 15, 20 years, there's more acts out there to do it, and there's the gaps, and they haven't got the costs of the acts that have got to travel in. And there's been things like Scottish Comedy Festival that have come out, as well as a stand, obviously, that's been there forever, that really champion the Scottish acts, and that's only going to grow, I think.
I'm going to go back to promotion, because one of the other things that's changed over the years is, in terms of postering, it's one company has control of that. If you want to stick stuff up in Edinburgh, you have to go through one company.
Yeah, it's totally outrageous. Edinburgh Council giving one company a monopoly.
Yeah.
And a monopoly that charges ridiculous amounts of money, doesn't guarantee the print actually gets up, and has huge amounts of problem every year. I've never understood why that's been allowed to happen, or there hasn't been some sort of challenge against that from other companies. companies because it's terrible.
I mean,
Yeah,
it used to be run. I mean, we all. Well, perhaps we can't say this legally, but it
yes, you
used to
can.
be. Lots of gangsters involved in putting up
No, it
posters.
wasn't. It was a complete free for all. It was.
No, I happen to know that lots of posters went up with. Well, anyway.
It was just me and my stapler, and
Yeah. Rolls of gaffer tape and glue tack
Yes.
and shimming up some posts.
and it was good. I mean, I once had a set to with one of an actor who was in a Big Four venue, and I used to get there at least about a week earlier to get all the good spaces to staple up your posters, and then they turned up with his agency and they stapled over my posters, and then I stapled back over their posters, and then a message was sent to me saying. So I think this is a useless waste of our time. Let's have a discussion. And I said, yeah, I think you should do because I've got never-ending supply of posters. I'm going to win this war if you want to keep doing it. So we did come to an arrangement in the end, which was stick over some other people's posters who aren't as angsty as me.
Well, can I just ask though, Alex? In this world of social media, obviously it's very, very powerful now. Do you think posters will gradually die out as a way of publicising a show?
They should do, yes. It's strange. You look at the Edinburgh Fringe compared to other festivals, and I've been active Brighton Fringe, Adelaide and Perth Fringes as well, and all of this, the reliance on prints and posters and flyers is a lot less. It's only Edinburgh that seems to be hanging on to that for, I'm guessing, like that traditional reason that everyone knows that's what you do and plaster the place with posters and end up printing thousands of flyers. But I really think it should. And will do eventually get over to the social media ads and apps and online.
Which, in a way, I mean, I can understand that, but it would be a shame in the sense that you do get some absolutely fantastic posters. People put a lot of thought into the posters, don't they? Yeah. I remember a brilliant one that Rory Bremner did once, the famous Christine Keeler pose on the back of the chair. I mean, I just not really eye-catching ones. And the other one I was going to say is that you also get the big, powerful agencies can pay for a poster that's much bigger than anyone else's. Yeah. they're like twice as big, aren't they?
Yeah, my favourite poster of Fringes from old was the Tim Vine when he put the massive poster on Cowgate. The year he wasn't at the Fringe. That's got to be one of the best posters that's ever been made.
I think it's the best poster of all time because he wasn't even there, and yet everyone was talking about him because he bought the big poster.
right at the bottom of Guthrie Street on Cowgate, and you couldn't miss the thing. It was that Tim Vine is not appearing at Edinburgh this year. It's brilliant.
Very clever. Very clever.
And I still think posters will survive because the thing is getting into people's phones. You might think it's easy, but it's really difficult. Whereas someone walking down the street looking to see something, there it is, directly in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll always stay there, even though there is a part of me that thinks the waste of paper that is perpetrated during the Fringe. Wow. I mean, no wonder Scotland is deforested. I mean, it's just, they've chopped them all down to make posters for English comedians. So it's
it's ridiculous the amount of print that's used. It's ridiculous the amount that goes into the bins at the end of the month. And it would be nice to see the back of such waste.
Yeah.
I've certainly, because we used to print our own brochure alongside the Fringe run, but I've moved over onto apps since COVID, which has helped, and that's certainly cut down on a few bits of print that is out there. But I think it'd be nice if other people followed suit and thought about the environment as well as everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I only think of the Scottish printers that their lives have been changed. So a printer in Stirling got involved in this. He never even knew about the Edinburgh Fringe, and now he's got a holiday home in Spain on the back of it.
I mean, Alex, do you think flyering still works?
I think so in Edinburgh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's still people out there, those Fringe regulars. If you're on Cowgate or the Mile or even down Grassmarket now, there's people out there looking for flyers and people willing to take flyers. Again, as far as I know, the only festival in the world that still has got such a reliance on flyering.
I mean, because good flyers, I mean, I speak as one who had a great... I mean, we were fighting, Mary Burke had a flyer that everybody wanted, but she said, no, it belongs to me. And he was absolutely brilliant. Young Scottish guy. I mean, they're like gold dust, aren't they, a good flyer?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's worth their weight in gold when you can find a good one. And then, like Mary, keep hold of them. Don't let anyone else.
No, she wouldn't give him up. No.
Obvious question. Future of the Fringe. What is it?
Oh, good question. I'd like to think it can continue, and as it has diversified in types of show, types of venue, and different places over the last 20 years, it will keep going like that. I think championing the small and the inventive over the big and corporate. Sadly, I think there will be. It's still going to be a while that the corporate's got the money to throw at it, and it's about all the big stars, but the Fringe will always continue, and it should always be about the grassroots, the new discoveries, and people being able to get out there and just see a mad, crazy, huge mishmash of everything that's available.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, one last one. The star system, like it or not, in terms of reviewing the show.
I'm going to say no. I'm it's an easy shorthand for people to see a review when they can't be bothered to read it, and go, oh, that looks like a good show, we'll go and see it. However, you don't get the subtlety from the review of something, whether it's you're going to like or not. And I think that if it was reviews without stars, that would make a lot more people read the reviews and then go and check out the shows.
Well, I thank you for coming on the show, and good luck in it.
No problem.
Yeah. Good luck, Alex. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
All right. No, that's great. Good
Cheers,
to
mate.
have a chat. Yeah. See you later. Bye-bye.
So that was Alex Petty doing his final preparations for Edinburgh, saving up his pennies to spend £1,800 on his accommodation.
To be honest, I mean, I'd heard it was a lot more than that. I mean, it depends what type of accommodation you want. I thought it was nearer to £3,000.
He did qualify it by saying if you get a deal, that's the cheapest you can get it. But if you could be paying £3,000 to £4,000.
Yeah. But it's a good interview. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it also explains why we're not going.
Yeah, I've got a spare £10,000 lying around the house.
Really?
No. Yeah, but thank you, Alex, for it was a very interesting interview.
News update: we have a live show coming up in October as part of the
Cheerful Earful.
The Cheerful Earful, not the Frightful Eiffel, but the Cheerful Earful podcast festival that's going on in Balham in South London. So we'll give you more details about that once we firm up our special guest. Not that we do that to most of our guests, so we don't tenderise them or firm them up. We normally just talk to them.
Sometimes. Yeah. And it's at the Bedford Arms, isn't it, in Balham?
Yes, which is the home of the Balham Banana Comedy Club, for those people who know the London circuit. So we'll be doing that. As I said, more details to come. If you've enjoyed this show.
Yes.
And if you found yourself going, wow, I'd like to see more of this, then like, subscribe, share. Basically, spread the word around. Tell everybody you know that it's a super duper experience. If you want to spread it around, use it as gossip. You could just tell people, whisper in their ear, have you heard? Podcast called You Should Have Been Here Last Week. It's a bit fruity. It could be like Chinese whispers, don't you? You should have been pears last week. It changes subtly in the end. It's something completely different. Couldn't be so bleak. It's one of my favourites. Yeah, that's actually a better title for it. It couldn't be so bleak. We should do a version of that, just in semi-darkness. Yeah. And the song. Don't forget, we've got to do the song. It couldn't be so bleak. It should have been so bleak. We have to slow it down a bit more. Yeah. Do it in the style of The Cure, something like that, Well, now we've lost all the Cure fans. Oh, I didn't mean that. I like The Cure. Big fan of
What's his name?
Robert Smith. Robert
That's
Smith.
the one. What his instantly forgettable name.
Yes. Anyway.
That's it. We're saying goodbye. We'll
Goodbye.
see you, as always, on the next one. Goodbye.
They said you should have been here last week. I swear you should have been here last